Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. Going to talk a little bit of recruiting updates. Going to talk about some of the news coming out about Deion Sanders' comments on spring games and what he would like to see happen. And then we're gonna talk top 10 Clemson recruits of all time. Talk about the individuals, what their career looked like at Clemson, and that'll be a lot of fun. Stick around for that. But before we get into tonight's show, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, and your help with that would be greatly appreciated. This is a live video, of course, so hit that like button for us. The likes really help us out on these live videos. So while you're in here, just click that like button for us. And then share this video with all your college football friends, family, whoever likes to consume college football. Send them our way. They don't have to be a Clemson fan. We welcome all fan bases in here. We love to chop it up with the live chat and the comment section. And then last but certainly not least, we have the super chat feature available for you guys. If you want to support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, go ahead and hit that super chat feature, and we'll be sure to read and respond to your comment and or question attached to that super chat. And with that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Just really excited this week. This is always a fun time of year. March Madness is getting ready to kick off, and our Clemson Tigers have made the dance for the second consecutive year.
That's right. That's right.
So I've been filling out my brackets, competing with my friends in bracket groups and stuff. Have you done yours yet? Because
I have. Yeah, I've not done mine yet, but I need to get on it. I'm going to be biased toward the Tigers, of course, but we definitely drawing that fifth seed and McNeese and the injury to Dylan Hunter. We definitely got an uphill battle. So I'm praying that this great historic basketball season, really, for the Clemson Tigers does not end in a early March Madness exit. So fingers crossed on that one. But, regardless, super proud of what the basketball team has done in the regular season. But as we know, this season will ultimately be judged on how far this team can go in this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and you mentioned, they really easily could have been a 4 seed.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about that ACC tournament semifinal. That one's going to sting for a little bit. But
that was a tough game, man. That was a tough game to watch.
But I think this team is going to be okay. I actually like this first round matchup. McNeese is really good, but I think what Clemson does really well is kind of antithetical to what McNeese likes to do. They have a lot of athletes. They like to run. They're not very big. But they're athletic. Right. But Clemson is going to make them a half-court team, I think. And plus, you got the news that their head coach, Clemson alum, Will Wade, is taking the NC State job after the season. So, who knows how that will factor into, their preparation and stuff. So, I think they'll be okay. I like their draw a good bit. I think a Sweet 16 run is very attainable.
Yeah.
If you face a team like Houston there, I don't know. Without Dylan Hunter, I'm not sure how that matchup's going to go. But regardless,
the worst part with his injury is there's no it's not like, if Clemson can get past the first couple rounds, maybe we can get Dylan Hunter back.
Yeah, no.
He's gone.
He's done. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Very, very. I hate it for him, and he's meant so much to this team. Like if you've been following this basketball team, and you look all year, how important he is. Like from an outside perspective, they're going to see he's averaging 6 points per game. Like why are y'all freaking out about that? But he has the highest assist to turnover ratio in Clemson Clemson basketball history. Right. He is the most efficient glue guy in college basketball. With him on the floor, Clemson had the most efficient lineup in the country.
Yeah, all you have to look to is him being inserted into that starting lineup after the Georgia Tech loss, and Clemson's efficiency after that. It just went through the roof. So he meant a ton to that team, not necessarily in the points department, but as far as just running that offense and allowing Chase Hunter to kind of be free to just be a scorer and kind of do his thing and not worry about having to run the offense. That took a huge weight off of Chase Hunter's shoulders, but now he shoulders that once again heading into the NCAA tournament. And you just, as a Clemson fan, you got to hope that Chase Hunter can find that magic from last year's tournament run again this year, because it's going to take him playing at a really elite level as well as Victor Locken. He's going to have to continue to play at a really high level, and you need one of those other guys to step up.
I think Jaden Zachary has continued to play really well. I think he's going to be a key. You're going to have to get something out of with Dylan Hunter out. You're going to see more of Chauncey Wiggins. You're going to see more of Del Jones. That one of them has to kind of step up. Chauncey is a guy that has loads of potential, but it's just so frustrating sometimes to watch because I don't think he knows how good he can be sometimes. And then Del Jones, I think he's electric. He's a lot of fun, but he's still a freshman, and he had some freshman moments in that ACC tournament. Getting a little ahead of his skis, getting a little wild, driving to the basket. It worked out good at times during the year, and he made some really incredible shots and layups, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But as the competition ramps up, you're not going to just be able to drive into the paint in three people and finish over. You're going to get blocked. You're going to turn the ball over.
And that's the thing. You're going to get loose with the basketball, and in the NCAA tournament, turnovers is what's going to send you home. You can't turn the ball over like they did in the ACC tournament. So
very uncharacteristic from this team. That has been so good. They've been so good at taking care of the ball. So you can't afford to do that.
No, it got away from them. It was an unfortunate exit from the ACC tournament. We will not rehash the officiating or the off the court things that happened in the ACC tournament. At the end of the day, those things were unfortunate, but they're not the sole reason that Clemson lost that game.
They need to start hitting threes, as John Sarian
astutely points out. Shooting a lot better. As one of the best shooting teams in the nation, they went cold at the complete wrong time. That's for sure. So
not good.
Gaining that hot streak back will be key in making any sort of run in the tournament.
All right. Did we give a quick shout out to the comments before we dive in?
Yeah, let's give a quick shout out to the comment section. Shout out to the baseball team too. They're off to an incredible start to the season. I think their 17-game winning streak got snapped on Sunday, but again, still off to an incredible start of the baseball season. So shout out to them as well.
Absolutely. And softball has turned it around. They've gotten it rolling. They've played a lot better over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. So sports doing well in Clemson. All right, quick shout out to the comment section before we dive into tonight's show. John Sarian, one of our regulars and our moderator in here first. Thank you so much for being in here. Isaac Smith, Intelligent Savage, thank you for being in here, brother. He says, hit that like button, people. Share the content. Yes, sir, absolutely. Tiggs is in here. Thread Knot is in here. Let's see. David is in here. Dev is in here.
What's up, Dev? That's my South Carolina. He's something. That's what he is. Yeah, he's something. He knows who he is.
JT's in here. You say he's a South Carolina fan?
Yeah, and a Cowboys fan. So I mean, he's.
Dang, bro. What? How you? Never mind. I'm leaving alone. I don't know him. So.
Sick combo.
He likes punishment. That's what he likes.
Yes, that's what he likes. He's very much. Yeah, We gonna have
Appreciate you being here, Dev. Trevor Porter in here. Thank you for everybody for being in here. Like I said before, hit that like button if you have not already. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Me and Jordan are here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. doing the All In Show. So come hang out with us each and every Wednesday, regardless of whether it's the season or the off season. We're here. So what happened to our Notre Dame fan? He pops in every now and then. He's not here every show, but Will pops in every so often. So he's probably busy doing some of his own YouTube stuff right now.
All right. Is that everybody?
Yeah, I think that's everybody. Let's go ahead and dive into the show tonight. And Jordan, I wanted to start the show off tonight with obviously a recruiting update. Everybody knows the whirlwind of Clemson recruiting that has been the 2026 recruiting class so far, with 12 commits currently sitting at the number 2 overall class, according to 247 Sports. And it was an amazing elite retreat weekend. But what is new in the world of recruiting? What kind of updates do you have for us about things that are still moving in the recruiting world for this 2026 class?
Yeah, there's a lot of still a lot of moving pieces and a lot of big fish out on the board for Clemson. Obviously, that big elite retreat recruiting weekend produced a ton of great results. But and I think you put yourself in really strong position for quite a few other guys. But they're still some of these guys are still going to continue to go through the process and render their decisions later. But I'm sure if you guys have been paying attention to the crystal balls, if you're one of those people that loves refreshing the 24/7 Sports page and seeing what crystal balls have come in, you've probably seen some for guys like wide receiver Gordon Sellers from Providence Day. Offensive lineman Zayden Krempin is a guy I've got my eye on. He took a visit to LSU over this past weekend. I think he's a guy that's going to go through the process, but I feel really good about where Clemson is with him, and they feel confident they can land him. They have continued to, do a really, really fine job at defensive back. We've talked about Polo Anderson, another in-state kid that I feel like you have to win at this point because you've done so well in that recruitment, and because you started off behind the 8 ball with him. We were kind of slow to offer him. South Carolina was the perceived leader for a little bit, but they've continued to chip away, and then got him on campus, and it was, I think things have definitely flipped in that area. He still plans to commit in May on his birthday, so I think you gotta ride the wave until that date. But I feel pretty confident about him being a Tiger, or announcing his commitment to be a Tiger, because you never know these days. It's not over till signing day. JT asked about Tyler Atkinson from Grayson High. That's a guy that I think you're going to have to hold out on that one and just be patient. I think Clemson did a really, really good job. They did themselves a lot of favors during the elite retreat weekend. But he's the highest profile linebacker in the country. He's going to take his visits. He was in Oregon this past weekend. He's going to continue to take visits to Georgia. But he has confirmed he will be there for his official visit weekend on May 30th. So I think that's going to be where you take your big swing, I think, and see if you can get him in the boat. But he's a guy that's going to go through the process for sure. But I think Clemson did themselves a lot of favors, because I do think they were probably in that second tier of contenders. But now I think they've, based off of the returns and in his comments, I think Clemson has definitely maybe not launched themselves into the lead, but I think they are very much in the mix for that, for his commitment. Let's see. He says, are there any other major blue chip recruits we've got a shot at? Yeah. Well, the guys I mentioned, there's still plenty of more out on the board. Guys like Leo Delaney, also from Providence Day. I think Lonnie Galloway has done a really good job. He's a guy we've talked about a little bit when Clemson hired him initially, and we haven't really discussed him since. But he has been a very, very big help for Clemson as far as, recruiting the Charlotte area, because he just has all those deep connections to the North Carolina in general, but the Charlotte area especially. Providence Day, that's a school you've been trying to get back into. But Tennessee is Tennessee is a school you still got to watch for these kids in Charlotte. That's Clemson's biggest competition, I think. But yeah, you're still waiting. I think you're in really good shape on the defensive line. Bryce Perry White is, he's always struck me as a Clemson kid, and I think it's just a matter of time. I think Clemson just needs to continue to maintain that momentum with that recruitment, and I think he will be in the class. And so I think that without getting into everybody, because I could do a whole show about Clemson recruiting. Clemson has done a phenomenal job, and I think they're in really, really strong position for a lot of big-time recruits. And I think you'll start to see those dominoes fall within the next, couple of months as, we get closer to the official visit weekend, which I think you'll see that the biggest swing from the Tigers. And you'll have some commitments here, intermittent here and there. I think somebody who is announcing their commitment, I believe on Friday, is in-state offensive lineman Zion Giles. I think Clemson did a really good job with him on the elite retreat weekend, but I don't think they were able to flip the cards there. I do think he will commit to South Carolina on Friday. So, oh well, one loss on the table when you've already loaded up on a elite offensive line class, and you're still in it for quite a few other guys. I didn't even mention Cannon Pickett out of the Miami area, who is still very much on the board as well and very much on the table. So I feel really good about Clemson's recruiting efforts. They've attacked this cycle in a way that they haven't in previous years, and they've just been more proactive as far as getting their biggest guys on the board, and also, and I just think they're in a better space NIL wise to be more appealing for recruits as well. So just a phenomenal job by the staff, and I think things are definitely trending in the right direction with this class. If I didn't think so before, I definitely do now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been an amazing start to the 2026 recruiting cycle. But again, it is only March, and it's a long road to signing day in December. So got to keep the momentum going, got to hold on to these guys. Tiggs got a question for you, Jordan, before we move on recruiting. He says, any prospects from Clemson North, a.k.a. Daniel High?
I don't have any guys on my radar right now. But then again, I have not kept up. I didn't watch much of Daniel this year. I don't anticipate there's not anybody that I'm looking at right now, but who knows? Maybe if there always seems to one Daniel kid seems to find his way on in a class more years than not. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it be a scholarship or a preferred walk-on spot, you can always count on at least one Daniel High appearance on the roster. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and leave recruiting right there. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship. Let's discuss how you can reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships at the Voice of College Football. That's sponsorships at the Voice of College Football right there on the screen. If you guys know of any businesses out there, whether it be your business or somebody else's business that wants to partner with the Voice of College Football or the Clemson channel to sponsor us, just hit us up at that email, sponsorships at the Voice of College Football, and we'll be more than happy to partner with said business. All right, guys, moving right along. Keeping with the recruiting theme, seeing as how we just had a recruiting update from Jordan, I wanted tonight to kind of go through the top 10 recruits of all time for Clemson football. I'm pretty sure every name on this list you guys will recognize. They are the highest rated recruits according to the recruiting people, right? So I pulled this list specifically from 247 Sports, and we are going to go through the list from 10 all the way down to, well, you want to start at 1 or you want to start at 10, Jordan? How do you want to
We can start. I'm a proponent of starting from the bottom, and
all right. We'll start from the quote unquote bottom of the recruiting cycle for the Clemson Tigers. So sitting in at number 10 is a current linebacker for the Clemson Tigers, just finished up his freshman season, had an amazing season. That's none other than Sammy Brown out of Georgia. Obviously, we know how his freshman season went. Jordan, what were your thoughts on Sammy Brown and his career so far as a Clemson Tiger? Now, he's one of the unique names on this list because, well, one, he's only been at Clemson for one season. He's just entering his second spring at Clemson and about to start his sophomore season, but already slated to be one of the big pieces of this Clemson defense in 2025, going to be a starting linebacker for the Clemson Tigers this upcoming season. Worked his way into the starting lineup more and more as the season went on. His freshman year, most notably missing from that fourth quarter of that South Carolina game that we don't like to talk about this past season. But Sammy Brown, although it be a very small sample size at Clemson, has, I think, delivered on his 5-star rating out of high school. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Sammy has definitely been as advertised so far in his career, even in just the one season. It was pretty incredible just, how little snaps he got, especially through the first half of the year. And yet when he got in, he seemed to always find a way to lead the team in tackles and just he was all over the place. He showed a ton of promise. I mean, we all know how freakish he was coming out of high school, so it wasn't really a surprise. But I've been really pleased with what he's shown so far, and I think that the projection is as high as it can possibly get, and he has a chance if he keeps trending in this direction to be one of the best that Clemson has had. So been really pleased with how he's developed, at least through his first year, and we'll see kind of how it plays out. He's got a big year ahead of him, and definitely will have a lot more snaps on the field this season, and will be a key piece on this defense.
Absolutely. All right, moving into the number 9 spot. This is a guy that a lot of fans do not have the best memories of, but he was a highly touted quarterback out of California. One DJ Uiagalelei, spent 2 seasons, well, I guess 3 seasons at Clemson before transferring to Oregon State, and then ultimately finishing his career this past year at Florida State. Obviously, DJ's freshman season as a Clemson Tiger was absolutely amazing. He filled in for 2 games for Trevor Lawrence during the 2020 season, the COVID, when Trevor Lawrence was out for the Boston College game and the Notre Dame game. Absolutely lit it up in both games, bringing us back from a deep hole in the Boston College game to ultimately win that game, and then going into South Bend and giving Notre Dame all that they wanted. Ultimately, we did not win that game, but it was not for a lack of trying from our freshman backup quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. After that, his first year starting was pretty lackluster, Jordan, to be completely honest. I think his first year starting, he threw for 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in that 2021 season. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, the beginning of Clemson's big skid that they went on for about 3 or 4 seasons there. And DJ just could never regain that freshman magic that he had in those 2 games for the Clemson Tigers. Ultimately, never regained it at Oregon State or Florida State. Ultimately, kind of being benched at Florida State. I know he broke his hand, but honestly, they were about to move on from him, whether he broke his hand or not. So pretty disappointing as far as a college career for DJ Uiagalelei. But again, great guy, a guy that you would have liked to see more success because, he is a really humble guy. He's, a high character guy, a team guy, but just didn't work out in Tiger Town for DJ Uiagalelei. Yeah,
you're right. And I think to DJ's credit in a lot of ways, I think he's definitely one of the I don't know if I could have gone through what he went through and, been okay.
No.
He had a lot of stuff happen over his time at Clemson, off the field, on the field, and a lot of it not in his control, injuries. But, I think despite that, he won a lot of games. I mean, by most metrics. I mean, he won 21 games as a start, or 20.
21, yeah.
21 or 22, 22, because if you can include the Boston College from his freshman year, he won 22 games as a starter, and 10 and led Clemson to double-digit win seasons. He had pretty good defenses on it, but but I think his time at Clemson wasn't without its highlights. I mean, we already talked about his 2 games as a freshman, but even especially his junior year, I thought he made a significant improvement over the based if you compare it to his 2021 season. He was a lot more efficient, threw for way more touchdowns, 22 touchdowns, 7 picks. And there were some highlights there. The Wake Forest game I think was one of his best games as a Tiger, and especially when you consider the circumstances and the talent around him, I would say that was probably his best game. He led Clemson to a top 10 win over NC State at home. I was at that game. That was a lot of fun. He played extremely well. He was. I think people forget that season he was in the fringe of Heisman talks at the beginning of that year, and he he played really well and led Clemson to that 8-0 start before that Notre Dame game. But and I think that was kind of. Yeah, that was kind of where the wheels fell off. But I think DJ's career is not going to be remembered fondly, but it wasn't, it wasn't all bad. And I think he was a great ambassador for Clemson and a just stand-up guy, great teammate. And I think that should be appreciated, even if his career didn't pan out the way we all hoped it would.
Yeah, I mean, look, he certainly did not turn into the quarterback that every Clemson fan thought he was going to be coming out of high school. But again, to your point, he was a great ambassador for the university. Like I said, a high character guy, not a guy you can really root against. He's just too nice of a guy. It's really unfortunate. After he left Clemson, I did want to see him have success and kind of rekindle the fire that he had, especially that freshman year at Clemson. But for whatever reason, it seemed that something shook his confidence to its core, and he could never really recover from whatever it was. And I know he had a lot of personal things going on as well off the field, not any of it him or under his control, but still stuff that probably weighed on his mind, and not to mention the immense amount of criticism that he got for his on-the-field play. So shout out to him for handling that like a professional, like an adult, because like you mentioned, I don't know if I could have gone through what DJ did and kept it calm, cool, and collected as he always seemed to be. He may have been screaming inside, but he always was stoic on the outside. So shout out to him. I don't think he'll get a shot in the NFL, but regardless, I wish him the best for his future.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, coming in at number 8 on the Clemson all-time recruit list is none other than current Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik out of Westlake, Texas. Won multiple state championships. I don't think he ever lost a game as a starter in high school. He comes to Clemson. He's kind of sitting behind DJ. and then gets his first start, or not his first start, but played majority of that ACC championship game where he kind of lit it up. And then in the bowl game against Tennessee, it did not go well at all. And then his first season starting was not good. 2023 was obviously a rough season for Cade Klubnik. It was riddled with turnovers, both fumbles and interceptions, just poor decision making. But then you turn the page to last year, 2024, and he had probably the biggest bounce back season you've seen out of a quarterback in quite some time. Certainly out of pretty much any Clemson quarterback I can think of when it comes to bounce back seasons, throwing for, well over 3,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, a bunch of yards, almost 500 yards on the ground, another, I think, 10 or 12 touchdowns on the ground. So, absolutely lit it up last season, a complete 180 from the season before, and now heading into his senior season for the Clemson Tigers, riding sky high on expectations for 2025. Your thoughts on Cade Klubnik coming in at number 8 and his career so far as a Tiger, although the ending is yet to be written. So we'll see what he can turn his senior season into, and maybe he'll become one of those legendary quarterbacks that takes Clemson to the mountaintop once again.
Maybe. One thing I'll say about Cade Klubnik has been, and I think it took some. It's a new thing for Clemson fans, especially in recent history. If you think about the quarterback history at Clemson, especially the recent quarterback history, when you've had these highly touted guys, like for Clemson, it's really been they're either good right away or they just don't pan out. There's never really been an in between as of late. And so I think Cade Klubnik is the first example that Clemson fans have seen in a while of a 5-star guy that, had the ability to reach his potential, but wasn't there right away. He wasn't ready to go. He wasn't ready to do what his team needed him to do in order for them to win a lot of games. I think this is the first example of a guy that had to come in and develop, and we actually saw development. When you think of Deshaun Watson, he came in, they knew he was different right away. Yeah. If it wasn't for the ACL tear and he had 2 different injuries that year, but if it wasn't for the injuries, like he would have been the full-time starter, and who knows how that 2014 season might have looked. Right. And then you think about Trevor Lawrence, he comes in. They knew he was better pretty much right away, but they gave Kelly Bryant was the incumbent, right? And they gave them the opportunity to battle it out. Even well into the season, they split time through 4 games, but as soon as he got in and played well, I guess his first start against Syracuse, he got knocked out, so that doesn't really count. But his first full healthy game, it was evident how different the offense was, and even when he got in, in the games prior, it was evident how different the offense flowed. And then when you think of DJ Uyunglele, who we just talked about, he's a guy that he came in. Yeah, I guess you could say he was good right away, but he never really he played in 2 games, and then when he struggled, he just never really improved to the point that what you would expect from a 5-star. So Cade Klubnik is the first example of a guy that was not ready to play and had to develop into that 5-star caliber type player. He had the tools, but mentally he wasn't there, and he got there. I think and I think you saw it over the course of last season, and now obviously his story is yet to be finished. It's still being written, but he's definitely been an example, the first example for Clemson fans, where a guy that had to come in and just get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that Dabo talks about all the time, right? The difference between college and pros is college football is still very much a developmental game. And Cade Klubnik is an example of a ultra talented guy, but wasn't ready to make the transition to big time college football yet. And Clemson fans were screaming in that 2022 season to bench DJ and bring Cade in. And the Clemson coaching staff ultimately knew what the fans didn't, and they knew that Cade Klubnik wasn't ready. Now, his first year starting in 2022, as you mentioned, like that wasn't all on him. He turned the ball over a ton, and he made some poor decisions, but the wide receiver room wasn't where it needed to be. It was year one under Garrett Riley, and the system really wasn't where it needed to be. The personnel wasn't where it needed to be, which was said by Garrett Riley when he was talking to the media. The offensive line was still in disarray and not playing at a high level at all. So there were a litany of issues as to why Cade Klubnik's first year starting in 2022, in 2023, was ultimately a poor product on the field. But you turn the page to 2024. You got a guy like Matt Luke in there, gets the offensive line figured out. Year two of Garrett Riley, the system's starting to work. We get two big-time freshman wide receivers. We get Antonio Williams back. So it was a completely different offense from a skill position and a protection standpoint for Cade Klubnik in 2024 than it was year one of him as a starter in 2023. So can't wait to see what he does to cap off his Clemson career. I hope he takes us to the top and Clemson gets championship number 4. But we will have to wait and see. Long time before we get there. Number 7 on the list, Jordan, Myles Murphy from the 2020 class. A guy that was highly touted, right? ACC honors as a sophomore, 40 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks as a junior. Ultimately drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Your thoughts on Myles Murphy and his career as a Tiger?
Yeah, Myles Murphy is the first example on this list of a guy that came in and was very good. He was very good, but he never took that next step. And I think that's one thing that I think people, when they look back on his career, are going to, kind of downgrade him for, because I think he was a special talent, coming in, as a true freshman in that 2020 class. He flashed a ton. He was really good. He was really good his sophomore year. But he just never, there was never that, he never took that second, he never got to that second gear. There were times throughout his career where he would take plays off. He wasn't as impactful as you would expect him to do. He always graded out really well, and that was one thing that was – it was just – I think people didn't – if they weren't following Clemson, they'd be like, oh, man, Myles Murphy, he's one of the best in college football. But I think there was another level he could have reached that he just never did. And I don't know how much of that was on his position coach or him personally, because I do think he was a guy that – he – kind of a laid back type of guy, personality wise, really smart kid. He's an engineering major. But he didn't always play with that fire that you've seen from, previous Clemson defensive ends. And I think that was kind of ultimately what hurt him. Cause I think talent wise, tools wise, he could have been a top 10 pick. I think if he had reached the level that I think a lot of people maybe expected him to be. So I think his career, while it was good, it was never great, and he could have been great. So, I just, now he's with the Bengals and he hasn't really played all that much outside of, spot, snaps. He just has not reached his potential, and they have not gotten the return on using a first round pick on him so far. We're not and this isn't about his NFL career, but I'm just using it as an illustration of kind of he's never had that second gear that I think you need when you're at that position.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, he was a guy who was ready when he arrived on campus to play, right? But ultimately, I think Isaac Smith in the comments put it best. He said it feels like Miles Murphy didn't reach his full potential, and I think that's the story of kind of Miles Murphy's career at Clemson. He was a very good defensive end for the Tigers and had a solid career, but never really, like you said, hit that next gear. He never maximized his potential while at Clemson. So, a little disappointing when you look at a guy like that and the talent level that he could be at. But again, Brent Venables was gone, new defensive coordinator. I'm sure some of that was on the position coach at the time. But ultimately, he's a guy that got called out by Dabo Swinney in the media a few times about taking plays off and kind of being lazy on some stuff. So some of that was obviously personally on him as well as a player. So although I think he had a really solid career, it could have been a lot better, like you say. So shout out to Miles Murphy, though.
Yeah.
Number 6 on the list, somebody that I don't know if Clemson fans have heard about in a while, or some may not even know about, but Roscoe Crosby from the 2001 class, wide receiver, did not play very much for the Tigers, played his freshman year, had 23 receptions for 396 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then ultimately got injured and then dropped out of school and went to play baseball. So not too big of a career for our boy Roscoe Crosby, but a guy that had a lot of potential when he came to Clemson and just got stifled by injuries. And ultimately he decided to do what he thought was best for him, and that was go play baseball.
Yeah. Guy that he was one of the highest profile kids from the state of South Carolina that we had seen in quite some time. I'm saying we had seen, like I was very little, but he really was just one of the highest. He was, the excitement for him coming in was unimaginable. And I think when he was at Clemson, he dealt with a lot of personal things. There was an article about him from I think like 2000, I want to say like 2009 or something, talking about kind of his struggles while he was at Clemson. He ended up going back to Clemson and getting his degree, so that was cool to read. But he struggled with depression and some other personal issues, and I think he just was never able to get himself right to be an athlete, a student athlete, and then a professional athlete. Because I think he was with the Royals, I want to say.
Yeah, he had a contract with the Kansas City Royals before he ever came to Clemson. So.
Yeah, and they had him with a $1 million, I think it was like $1 million signing bonus or something like that. Yeah. But I don't think he was ready for that. The pressures and the responsibilities and stuff that come with that. And I just don't think he was able to handle it well. I don't know what he's doing now. I saw that he was on Facebook. So, but I don't know exactly what he's doing now. But a guy that obviously just wasn't able to pan out for a lot of reasons, despite his immense talent in 2 sports, but had a really, he had a promising freshman season, but just never, was never able to, get things right for himself.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Moving on to number 5 on the list, Jordan, one of my favorite Tigers of all time, Xavier Thomas, XT Edge from the 2018 class, the same class as Trevor Lawrence, out of IMG Academy. Ultimately, he was from South Carolina, but went down to IMG Academy, and that's where
South Florence.
He signed on with the Clemson Tigers. Had a breakout freshman year, right? Just an absolute terror his freshman year. But a guy that battled probably some of the most adversity that any Tiger has in his career. I mean, you're talking about a blue chip guy that was, in his words, a 3-and-done guy for sure. And ultimately, that's really not how his career ended up going. He suffered the injury bug a lot. And then, when COVID came around, he got really sick. And when he got really sick, he got out of shape and gained some weight and dealt with some mental health battles that he spoke about in the media and stuff like that. And just how tough of a recovery that was from him, not only physically, but mentally. And just a guy that came in with a bang, and then, in my opinion, ended his career with an absolute bang. His last year as a Clemson Tiger, taking that COVID year and coming back and really just solidifying himself as that true talent that we always knew XT could be, was certainly a leader on the team, and just super proud of that dude for all that he endured during his career, and ultimately how he turned all that adversity into that final season where he really balled out for the Tigers as an elite rusher.
Yeah, absolutely. Just he's a guy that is an example of, persevering through adversity. I mean, a guy that went through a ton while he was at Clemson. You mentioned that COVID year was really tough on him. He put on a lot of weight, wasn't, dealt with depression, and just wasn't able to hone in on his craft, and he struggled after a promising first 2 years. But I think ultimately the talent was, it was undeniable when you watched him play. Like, when he was himself and when he was healthy, when he wasn't dealing with the injuries that knocked him out for a year. What was it? 2021 when he got hurt again, and then in 2022 he got hurt again.
Yeah.
But then for him to put together a full season of work and get drafted, I think that was just a great story. And he's still a great ambassador for Clemson, and these guys I'll always appreciate. Definitely one of my favorite Tigers for sure. So shout out to XT.
Shout out to XT. Hope he has a long.
He did his thing, and he's played a good bit for the Cardinals.
Yeah, he looks good out there.
Yeah.
Hope he has a long NFL career because that guy deserves it for sure. All right, rolling right into the number 4 spot, none other than Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle out of the 2016 recruiting class from Wake Forest High, North Carolina. This dude was an animal, man. Like, Dexter Lawrence in the middle of Clemson's defense is just an immovable object. He's a guy that has immense strength and power and just bullies offensive linemen, a guy that can pressure the quarterback from the defensive tackle position, wreak havoc in the backfield, create sacks. There's not a whole lot that Dexter Lawrence can't do, even getting in on offense in the big package and helping the offense score touchdowns. Yeah, I see Isaac Smith in the chat, Sexy Dexy. Which is his thing in the NFL now. Not that we're talking about the NFL, but having an amazing NFL career. But your thoughts on Dexter Lawrence and what he meant to the Tigers, and ultimately what you thought of his career as a Clemson Tiger.
Yeah, he's one of the guys on this list that honestly might be having a better NFL career than he did college career, and but that's saying a lot
because he had a really good Clemson career.
Yeah, I mean, Dex is an all-time great. I can't. I mean, I could spend a lot of time talking about him, but he was special, and I think he's going to be remembered fondly for in the college realm and in the NFL realm. He's a guy that doesn't come around very often. Truly, like I am very close to saying generational when you consider what he's doing in the league right now. Like he's doing things that only Aaron Donald was doing. And he's doing it as a zero tech. Like It just his impact as a pass rusher from that, from that alignment, and just how dominant he actually is when you turn on the tape. I mean, I think he's the best in the league right now. But his college career was phenomenal. Two-time national champion,
Two-time national champion,
all ACC honors.
Yeah, the rookie of the year, all ACC honors his sophomore and junior year. I mean, he's got all the accolades that you could possibly pile up as a defensive tackle.
It's a shame we didn't get him in that college football playoff as last year. That's the only thing that I have any regrets about, or
that was
sadness
tough.
about. Is we didn't get to see him in that college football playoff, and that shows you how good that defensive line was.
Ultimately, they didn't need him, but
no, they did.
It still would have been nice to see big number 90 out there doing his thing. Yeah. It might have been even worse for Alabama. So
good Lord, man. Imagine, Al Huggins and Niles Pinckney and those boys held it down, but it could have been worse.
Yeah. I mean, you're missing the best guy, at least from the interior along that defensive line. So but to your point, that's how elite that defensive line was in 2018. Absolutely insane. An embarrassment of riches. But shout out to Sexy Dexy, and here's to having a very long, successful NFL career. He's already off to an amazing start. So look for him to keep snowballing that into even more success. Another interior defensive lineman checks in at number 3, Jordan. Brian Brzee, edge rusher from the 2020 recruiting class, number 1 overall recruit, number 1 defensive tackle in the class. Brian Brzee had an interesting career as a Clemson Tiger. His freshman season was really good. Defensive Rookie of the Year his freshman season, kind of had that breakout year. And then it got tough for Brian Brzee, both with the injury bug and a lot of off-the-field personal issues everybody knows about. His sister that was battling cancer and ultimately passed away due to her battle with cancer, and how much that weighed on him. And, shout out to the Clemson fans and the community for supporting that family and supporting Brian, and, just doing what the Clemson community always does. But he had a tough career when it comes to injuries and just those personal battles. So ultimately, I don't think Brian Brzee's career was what it could have been. But a lot of that stuff was ultimately out of his control. What were your thoughts on Brian Brzee's career as a Clemson Tiger?
Yeah, I think Brian is definitely a what if for me, another what if for me, because it felt like he, for different reasons than Miles Murphy, never reached his full potential. I think, the injuries were definitely a problem. He tore his ACL in that 2021 season. And then, of course, we are, you already talked about, what he battled, with his sister. It just can't imagine what he was going through, but he was a pleasure to watch when he was on the field. He was scary at times. Just especially as a defensive tackle, he was definitely one of the better pass rushers that Clemson's had, and just a force that teams had to. He faced so many double teams. It was something. And I think he definitely could have had a better career if things had gone a little bit differently. But still ended up a first-round pick. He's shown a lot of promise in his NFL career so far. With the Saints, as he's worked his way into the starting lineup and is continuing to get better. So I think things are. I think while his career didn't play out as much as well as we all hoped, I think he's going to be remembered a little bit more fondly than Miles Murphy. I think because I feel like a lot of his shortcomings weren't necessarily in his control.
Right. Completely agree. All right. Another defensive lineman checking in for the Tigers at number 2 overall on the all-time recruits list for the Clemson Tigers, none other than Daquan Bowers, defensive end from the 2008 recruiting class, number 1 overall, number 1 defensive end out of Bamberg, South Carolina.
Yes,
Shout out Bamberg. Your thoughts on Daquan Bowers and his career as a Clemson Tiger?
Yeah, just one of the best in school history. I mean, I can't really, speak, too, negatively about at least his college career. I don't, his NFL career didn't really turn out how maybe many of us thought, but he was special. Watching those games when I was, I would have been 9, 10 when he was playing, but he was one of my favorite players from that era. And I think he was one of the recruits that I think he was one of the key recruits for Dabo in what it took to build Clemson into what it ended up being. And obviously, I think he started kind of the pedigree for Clemson at edge rusher, under Dabo Swinney's tenure. So, yeah, Daquan Bowers, I believe, is he still where? I don't remember where is he on the sacks, all-time sacks. He's still got to be like top 3, isn't he?
He's got to be. Let me rattle off his junior season stats for you real quick.
Yeah, his junior year was nuts.
He had 67 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, and 15 and a half sacks.
Good Lord,
in one season.
Incredible.
Absolute terror. His first 2 years, 83 tackles, 18 and a half tackles for loss, and 4 sacks over his first 2 seasons. Just an absolute beast. All-time great.
And yeah, Isaac, he is on staff. So yeah,
he was
on staff.
He was the number 1 Clemson recruit for the longest time, but he was dethroned from the all-time number 1 recruit in Clemson history so far. And we'll go ahead and transition to him. That's none other than national championship winning quarterback Trevor Lawrence out of the 2018 class, number 1 overall recruit, number 1 quarterback in the class. Obviously, we talked about him a little bit when we were talking about Cade Klubnik and kind of his transition into Clemson and how it correlated with Deshaun Watson and some of the other great quarterbacks in Clemson history. And one of the greatest of all time is definitely Trevor Lawrence. He's the number 1 recruit all time for Clemson, dethroning Daquan Bowers, who had previously held that spot for quite a long time, but splashed onto the scene his freshman year, right? Played early and often, ultimately supplanting Kelly Bryant as the starter of Clemson. You think back to that Texas A&M game where he drops back for the first time and drops a dime for a touchdown to, I think, T. Higgins. Was that who he threw that touchdown to?
It was.
Okay.
T. Higgins.
My memory is still good. Here we go.
Man, that's –
but his first touchdown as a Clemson Tiger, as a college quarterback, first throw. And that was kind of just a vision of what was to come for the 2018 Clemson Tiger team and Trevor Lawrence. He had an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver, and just a absolute crazy unit as a defense, and ultimately went on his freshman year to win the national title. And probably, if I'm being honest, I thought, maybe we would win multiple national championships with Trevor Lawrence, especially after that freshman year of getting to the top. But 2019 ran into a buzzsaw of that LSU team that it just felt like destiny for them that year. They were not going to lose. Clemson was undefeated heading into that game once again, and just ultimately could not get it done against LSU. But an amazing career for Trevor Lawrence. Did put put up eye-popping stats every single season as the Clemson signal caller, and then ultimately got drafted first overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wish he didn't go there, but hey, it is what it is.
Me too, as a Titans fan. But slight correction too, because it's something that people say a lot, but his that Texas A&M game was, I think that was week 2, right?
That might have been week 2.
I think that was week 2, because I believe we played Furman. I believe it was Furman first.
Yeah,
but so I think Trevor's first touchdown pass was actually to DeAndre Overton. So rest in peace.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Rest in peace, DeAndre Overton.
Yeah. I thought about him earlier this week and I got sad. I still can't believe that.
That's crazy, man.
Trevor, phenomenal career. I mean, there's not really much more you can say. One of the best athletes in school history. And I think, his NFL career is, I think his story is still being written. And when you look at that draft class, he's been easily the best out of that group. It's kind of crazy how highly touted that group was coming in, and it's not even, they haven't even come close to panning out, most of them. But Trevor, I mean, at least he has a Pro Bowl appearance. He has a playoff win. He's still the entrenched starter at the franchise that drafted him. So, I think, we'll see what he can do under this new coach. I hope he's successful, but they lose every game. I can't root for the Jaguars, man. But shout out.
I hope he gets traded to a real franchise where he can actually have success.
Yeah,
that's what I hope.
Same.
That probably won't happen. But regardless, I don't care what happens in Trevor Lawrence's NFL career. Although I wish him well. I'm thankful for everything he did for the Tigers, from his national championship to his first-team All-American to his 2 first-team All-ACCs, over 10,000 passing yards, 90 through the air. He had an amazing run at Clemson. And that's part of the reason that Cade Klubnik has caught so much criticism, because of all the success that Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence just rolled into college and made it look easy. When in reality, it's definitely not easy. So
there's way more Cade Klubniks than there are Trevor Lawrences and Deshaun Watson.
Clemson will probably never get another Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson again. I mean, those caliber of guys, you don't get those, and to have them essentially back to back with a bridge year of Kelly Bryant. No disrespect to Kelly Bryant, he was a really good quarterback. So I mean no disrespect when I say that, but having those two guys so close together, I think it warped some Clemson fans, probably us included, when it comes to quarterback expectations. Being a 5-star coming out of high school, transitioning to the college level.
Yeah, no, 100%. They don't come very often at all. Tiggs asked, he said, as a starter, how many freshman quarterbacks have actually won a natty?
Good question.
I think just the two. I think two. I think the first was Jamel Holloway. With Oklahoma, I think way back in like 85. And then I think it was Trevor Lawrence. I think those are the only two. There hasn't been one since, right? Because Burrow was 19. Mac Jones was not, he wasn't a freshman. 2020, 2021, Stetson Bennett. 2022, Stetson Bennett. 2023, Michigan, JJ McCarthy. 24. Yeah, so now Will Howard. It's just, I believe it's just Jamel Holloway and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I still remember that. But
it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Very hard to do. I get well, and I guess if you say it depends on what you mean by freshman, because Jameis Winston was a redshirt freshman when Florida State won. So if you want to count that, I guess Jameis Winston is in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to count redshirt freshman,
but true freshman is, I believe, it's just Holloway and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, so that is your top 10 Clemson recruits of all time. Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Daquan Bowers, number 2. Brian Brzee, number 3. Dexter Lawrence, number 4. Xavier Thomas, number 5. Roscoe Crosby, number 6. Miles Murphy, number 7. Cade Klubnik, number 8. DJ Uiagalelei, number 9. And Sammy Brown, number 10. There you have it, folks. The top 10 recruits all time for Clemson. Man, we've had some good ones. And there's a bunch left off that list.
Yeah, I mean, you scroll further down the list and you'll see some guys that I wish we could have been able to talk about. But, these shows the recruiting, a couple of these guys show that recruiting rankings aren't everything. And, that if we were to say, like, top 10 most impactful recruits and not just a raw rating of what 24/7 Sports says, then that list would probably look a lot different, and the order would definitely be a lot different. But still some great players on that list, and recruiting rankings aren't everything, but they're valuable.
That most of those guys had really, really good careers at Clemson. So the guys doing recruiting rankings know something. Guys, make sure you're checking out Clemson Live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. All you got to do is go search Clemson Live. All of me and Jordan's long-form content, all these shows, the all-in shows, are right there for you to easily digest, whether you're on a long drive, whether you're working out, whatever the case may be. Whenever you like to listen to your podcast, head on over to your audio streaming platforms, search Clemson Live, give us a rate, review, subscribe over there, and that would be greatly appreciated. All right, Jordan, last segment of the night. Deion Sanders has been in the news cycle quite a bit in the last week. He met with media members and had some comments about the spring game and what his vision of the future of spring games looks like in college football. And he had a lot of interesting comments to say about it. Ultimately, basically what he wants, or what he envisions, is partnering with other teams, other universities, bringing them out to his facility, doing joint practices like they do in the NFL for 3 days, and then ending with a spring game, the two teams going up against each other where the fans are in the stadium, and it's more like a college football Saturday game than a spring game. So those were kind of his thoughts. I know he pointed out North Carolina. I know Syracuse's coach reached out on social media, or had something to say on social media about he's game for it. Ultimately, I don't know that it is currently legal as far as the NCAA rules go to do that. But just talking about the possibility of this happen, Jordan. So let's explore this for a couple minutes. What are your thoughts? Would you like to see the future of spring games become a kind of a home and home series with teams, or just bringing a smaller in-state school up to do some joint practice and then ultimately end in a spring game? What are your thoughts on what Deion had to say and the potential of what could come out of this and be possibly the future of spring games? In a world of college football where there's a growing list of universities canceling spring games because they're worried about tampering. Luckily for us, the Clemson Tigers are not canceling, nor do they plan to do so in the future. But this is certainly an interesting topic to talk about and get the comments' thoughts. So your thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, hopefully my internet doesn't do what it just did. But yeah, I think it's interesting. It's something that's been floated out. Deion's not the first to kind of talk about it, but I think he's the first to, want another Power Four school that I can remember. I'd be all for it. I don't know if it would become a trend, so to speak. And yeah, like you said, I'm not sure it's legal. But you know, I think with the fear from a lot of coaches about players getting poached and stuff like that, it's kind of, especially if you're playing another Power Four school, you're kind of opening yourself up. I guess that's probably the logic they would use, but I would be cool with it. It would be something to. I think it would be great for fan engagement, and it'd be fun to. It kind of like in basketball has exhibition games and things like that. Obviously, football logistically, it takes a lot more to put together a football game, and but if two schools wanted to do it, I don't see a reason to bar them from it. So.
Yeah.
And I'd definitely watch it. It'd be something, especially, in a time where there is no football on. So, I like I said, I'd be all for it. I don't know if I would want Clemson necessarily to participate. I guess it depends on what the opponent is and all of that. Because again, because I don't want, I want it in a way that, you're not, playing your starters and stuff like that. I do worry about injuries, but I think that's the only thing.
Yeah. My kind of thoughts on the possibility of this is I really kind of like it. And I've thought about it over the last day or so. And I get, so some of the arguments out there are obviously first thing people are going to go to are the first two things is poaching players and then injuries, right? Those are going to be the major talking points for a lot of people or the opposition to having live spring games against a real opponent. Poaching players, I mean, I don't know what we do about that in college football, but I'm of the opinion that it's not a good reason not to have a spring game. It's, I think the spring game is huge for the fan base. I think it's huge for just kind of the team as well. You do create some semblance of a game time atmosphere being in your stadium with, at least some fans there making noise. It does feel a little bit different, I'm sure, from a player standpoint. Now, as far as playing another opponent, I would like to see it be, sort of like, your cupcake games in the season, right? So bring in one of your smaller FCS teams from in-state, like a Citadel or a Charleston Southern or, a school like that, and bring them in, pay them, some amount of money, do some joint practice, and then ultimately into the spring game. I hear the argument for injuries, and I mean, that's all well and good, but you have just as much, if not more, injury risk doing an inter-squad scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I get the injury piece, but this is football. Guys get injured, and I don't think playing against one of your smaller in-state schools is going to increase your risk of injury. What's the difference in going up against the Citadel's defense versus going up against your defense? Like, is there really any more of a risk for injury? I don't think so. It's just like any other scrimmage, and you could tailor it that way. It doesn't have to be a quote unquote legitimate game, but just seeing your guys go up against players that they are not familiar with, right? I think would be a big benefit, especially when you're talking about not playing as many starters and getting those depth guys a bunch of reps. Why not get them reps against players that they're not familiar with? I think it could be really beneficial. I think it could be huge for fan engagement. I think you can make a lot of money off of it as a university. Obviously, to make up some of the money, you might have to charge a small fee to get in. And I know, we don't want to hear that for a spring game. But you could make it a small $10 fee, to get in for the spring game and make it this big type of event where, not only do the fans come and get engaged, and you probably get more people coming to the because there's an opponent there, but you also get some real live work. I personally like the idea. I don't know about Power 4 on Power 4.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
I would definitely be in favor of bringing a smaller in-state school in, giving them, whatever amount of money it is to come in, have a couple practices, and ultimately end in a spring game where the fans can come out and watch. And you could televise it. You could not televise it. I don't really care. But I think it definitely has benefits to it. Will it ever catch on? I don't know. Because the current world of college football that we live in, people can't even scrimmage themselves because of they're too tired from the season or injuries, or somebody's going to come take my players, or just a litany of excuses as to why these guys can't go play football when they're football players. It's just crazy to me, but whatever. I'm Team Deion on this one. Let's make it happen. I don't know why that you can't have joint practices in college football. Like, that makes no sense. Why can you not have joint practice with some team during spring ball? Like, I don't understand why that's even a problem with the NCAA. But again, nothing ever makes sense with the NCAA. Yeah. So
rules just to have rules. That's
just my thoughts on it. I'd be excited for it. I would certainly watch it anytime I get a chance to watch football, especially if it's Clemson football. I'm watching. So I saw a couple of our commenters in here mention that the spring game will not be televised. That is true. Clemson spring game will not be televised this year. So if you're going to see the spring game, you're going to have to go to the spring game.
Yep. And that's kind of the reality. I mean, it's kind of an in between of what many coaches are. We're just not going to have a spring game. I mean, it's better to have a spring game than not have a spring game, I guess. So, while it sucks that it won't be on television, it still gives the opportunity for the fans to go see their team play. I feel bad for the people that are like far out of state that have to, for me, it's like a 2.5 hour drive. It could be a day trip. I have not solidified my plans on if I'm going. Depends on my work schedule, but I think that it would be very easy for me. But I know for a lot of other fans, it's, not every there's a lot of Clemson fans around the country and up and down the eastern seaboard. So you don't. It's a lot logistically. It doesn't always make sense. So even John mentioned it in the chat. He says, "I live over 1,000 miles from Clemson. Coming in for a scrimmage, not going to happen. Maybe a home game or two." Yeah, I feel you. I wouldn't do it either for that. That far away. Not for a spring game.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not for a spring game. But Clemson spring game will be April 5th. 2 short weeks away. So halfway through spring practice already. They've been on spring break for the past week, getting back to practice here. Finish up the second half of spring and in with a April 5th spring game. So I think it's at 1 p.m. So those of you that are planning on going, I have not decided whether I can go or not. Got to check the travel ball schedule, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's a year-round thing. Softball.
It's a whole thing. I'm held hostage. All right, guys, make sure you are connecting with the voice of college football on all the social media platforms. Hold on one second here. Let me get my stuff up. There we go. You see the official Twitter page right there, the Voice of College Football official Twitter page. We also have a new Instagram page that I'm going to put on the screen here in a second.
Y'all go check that out too.
Be sure to give that a follow as well. It's the Voice of College Football over on Instagram. Give us a follow on Instagram. Give us a follow on Twitter. That would be greatly appreciated. Trying to grow, especially our Instagram page right now. So if you guys could go check that out, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm going to post some links right here in the chat so that you guys have access to it. That is the Instagram page right there. And then I'm also going to post the Twitter page right after that. So go check us out on all the social, guys. If you don't have social media, that's fine. I'm not telling you got to go out and get it. But if you already have Twitter, if you already have Instagram, go check out the Voice of College Football on all of those platforms. Give us a follow. Help us grow the brand over there. All the college football news will be put out over there. Promos for shows. It's a good way to get in contact with us. If you have any ideas on sponsorships or any show ideas or anything you'd like to see, that's a good way to get in contact with us as well. So thank you guys for your help with that. And we'll leave that right there. And with that said, Jordan, I think that is the end of the plan portion of the show. And it is time to dive into the live chat and see what the people are talking about.
Let's do it. Let's see what y'all are on tonight. Y'all were on one last week. I can only imagine.
Y'all were doing the most last week. I don't know what y'all must have been drinking last week. I don't know what y'all were doing. y'all were out here just taking shots at everybody.
Nuts, man. Nuts. Tiggs, we started this one earlier. He said he has a BYOG or sell. He says Clemson will have a freshman start game 1 in 2025.
Start a game 2025.
Start a game. Shoot. I'm going to
buy.
I'm really close to I think I'm a buy too.
I'm a buy. Because you got Gideon Davison.
Yeah.
We expect him to merge as RB1, most likely.
Although they have been pleased with Adam Randall, so we'll see. But
that's true. Adam Randall has impressed, especially with his ability to catch out of the backfield. That's a nightmare for a linebacker to cover coming out of the backfield. Good Lord, wouldn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, me neither.
Certainly, you got a 6'2" guy coming out of the backfield, running routes like a wide receiver because he used to be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck covering that. But yeah, I could see Gideon Davison starting. Who else?
I think Gideon Davison is the obvious choice. Who slots in at guard could be interesting, but none of them would be none of your options there are going to be freshmen. So
no, that'll be like Harris Sewell,
Elijah Thurman,
Colin Sadler, Elijah Thurman.
Yeah.
None of those guys are going. You're not going to. Well, I hope you don't get any starts on the offensive line as freshmen because that means
no thanks.
That means we've probably had a lot of injuries along the offensive line, which is not good.
It's not good.
Now, I like those freshmen that we got, but I don't want them to have to play this year.
No. Let's see, defensive line, don't expect any freshman to emerge. True. I mean, Amari Adams is going to be interesting, but I don't think he's going to start.
I don't think he'll ever start, but I think he'll probably work himself into the rotation as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, he looks the part.
Physically, he's ready.
Yeah.
We'll just see how quickly he grasps the schemes. So, but physically, that dude could go start right now.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, you got Peter Woods and DeMonte Capehart, and then you got Stephon Green. So you got some guys there ahead of him that he probably will not see a start.
Yeah, I'm with you. Linebacker, I don't expect. I think you've got two entrenched starters there, and then I think all your depth.
You got Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz.
Jeremiah Alexander, Kobe McLeod coming off of injury. None of those guys
coming off the injury. Jeremiah Alexander. Yep.
Yeah. I don't expect any true freshmen to work their way at linebacker. Defensive back, I mean, you got two corner. I think you're set there. None of the fresh, especially based off of the comments Dabo made. Yeah, none of the.
hey, Dabo. Man, you know that was directly at those guys. He was talking to those defensive backs.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened for the first half of spring. But whatever happened irritated Dabo enough that he called him out in the media. So they got some work to do.
Yeah, no tight. Don't expect any tight ends, receivers. Don't safety. I don't expect to be. I don't expect a true freshman. I think Gideon Davidson is really your only. Your only hope, but he has a good shot.
The only legitimate option, barring like massive injuries at other positions. Like he's the only guy that has a clear path outside of injuries to start this year. I think. Who got tossed off the field? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I've asked around. I don't know.
We don't know. Dabo definitely ain't gonna tell us.
No. Jeremiah asks, do you guys see Garrett Riley taking a head coaching job after the season? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It depends on the timeline would make sense. You'd want to see Garrett Riley's career finish out, and then I don't know.
Yeah, Garrett Riley's one of those guys that like whenever he leaves, it's not going to surprise me.
Yeah,
right. Like if that makes sense, right? Like. I wouldn't be surprised if he left after this year or any year after that, right? Yeah. Like, ultimately, Garrett Riley's going to leave for a head coaching position at some point.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when, if. So I think as Clemson fans, like, we kind of already know that. Like, so it's not going to be like a huge, like, oh, God, Garrett Riley's leaving. It's like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
This happens. We knew this when we knew this when we hired him. He wasn't going to be a career coordinator. So,
and I'm not that I'm not worried. I'm obviously going to worry when Garrett Riley leaves. But the good thing is Dabo Swinney knows that Garrett Riley's going to leave. So I'm sure he's already planning for that when it comes.
Yeah, and I think you'll see him go. And I think he's seen, especially in recent years, the value of going outside, making outside hires, and how he's kind of rebuilt the staff in a much better way than it was just a few years ago. So, I don't know what Garrett's plans are. In the short term, but I definitely expect him.
I hope he doesn't leave after this season. But,
I would gladly take him for, especially if you've had Chris Vizina, marinating in the system for a good bit.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
It wouldn't. I hope he doesn't, but it would not surprise me if the right head coaching job come along. But I don't know how. Everybody thinks Garrett Riley wants to be a head coach right now. Like, I don't know what his timeline and his mind looks like for being a head coach. Like, I don't know.
He's still very young. So, I mean, if he could.
What he feels about it. I don't know if he thinks he's ready. Like, that's all questions that only he can answer. Ultimately, I think he'll leave eventually to be a head coach somewhere. But, I hope he stays for 2-3 more years.
Yeah. The continuity would be great.
Yeah, anytime you can keep a high-level coordinator like that on campus is a good thing. But
yeah,
for sure we won't be able to keep him forever. So,
John said earlier. Oh my God! All right, next week you guys should do the guys the experts got wrong. The 10 that were lowest ranked and turned out to shine like a diamond in a goat's. You know what? Yeah, yeah, that could be something we do.
Yeah, we could put something like that together.
Yeah, it'd probably be a little bit more informal because it doesn't let you sort it by. I don't think it lets you sort it by lowest recruits.
Yeah, we'd probably just have to pick names.
Yeah,
off the top of our head, and then go look at the recruiting ranking.
Yeah, go from there. And I know you're going to have Hunter Renfro and Grady Jarrett.
Oh, yeah, Hunter Renfro is definitely on that list, no doubt. That's one of the first guys that come to mind.
Yep. All right. Let me get back. Let's do Dylan asked, does Olsen Pat Henry get the nod as tight end 1 over Christian Beneker? I think so. But I don't think it's going to be a scenario where Christian doesn't play. I think Christian's going to play.
Yeah.
They want it. I think I think the goal for them is to get him on the field pretty often this year. So not really I think both obviously have their utilities, and I think Christian ultimately will have has the higher ceiling, but I think Olsen Pat Henry is I think he's just too good right now and too polished to not play. He gives you so much from a blocking perspective, and I think and that wasn't even his specialty coming out of high school. I think his receiving ability hasn't really gotten the chance to shine as much as I think it will this year. So I think you're in a good spot there. But yeah, I think Christian he's definitely taking that next step, and I think you'll see him a good bit. But I don't think they'll start him over Olsen.
No.
Taco Gaming says, my controversial take: Cade will be Clemson's first Heisman winner. It would be fitting, but I just with everything. But the last I predicted that DJ Uyunglele would be Clemson's first Heisman winner, and
how'd that work out?
Yeah, that didn't really pan out. I hope so. But
I'm of the belief Clemson will never have a Heisman winner. I believe
the odds say it has to when you're a program like Clemson that you get enough high, you're going to get your fair share of elite players, always. Yeah. Will you always have the best teams? I don't know, and that definitely plays a part in it. But the numbers say it has to happen at some point. Like I feel the same way. Tennessee hasn't won a Heisman either, and that's kind of crazy to me.
That is crazy. I did not know that. That's yeah.
I think those are the two winningest programs in college football that don't have a Heisman. So, it's and then you have it's such a random thing because then you have programs like your in-state rival that managed to stumble into a Heisman winner. I mean, shout out to George Rogers who couldn't score on Clemson.
Whatever. They didn't give Deshaun Watson a Heisman Trophy, and that will forever be ridiculous.
Let's see. Yeah, on the Garrett Riley, who takes over for when he leaves. Yeah, people have, John mentions Kyle Richardson. That would be an obvious internal option for sure. He's an air raid. He has an air raid background already, and so I think you're in a much better if that was the choice. I don't know if it would be the most exciting hire, but it wouldn't be like Brandon. I don't think it would be the same as Brandon Streeter necessarily. I think it would make it would make more sense. I would still prefer an outside guy. I think. I guess it depends on who's available, but I think
at least that guy's been a play caller before.
Yeah.
So.
And he's it's the system he runs. It would make more sense. And I think he has a better support around him as far as his position, coaches, his staff. If Kyle Richardson were to take that be that next guy up, it would at least provide some continuity, for Chris Vezina. If he were to leave next year, if Garrett were to leave after this year, for example, it would make sense. But I would still definitely prefer you go and get somebody. But
I would as well.
I wouldn't perceive it the same as Brandon Streeter's hiring or promotion.
Yeah.
And you're in a much better place staff-wise, roster-wise, offensively than you were when he took over the job. So that plays a part in it as well. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think Matt Luke would. I'm not sure if Matt Luke would be the choice as far as an offensive court, as far as being a play caller. Maybe you get a co-OC title. I don't know if you want him calling plays. He hasn't. That's just not something he's.
I don't think he would want to call plays either.
Yeah. I think that would take away what he does on the field as a coaching, as an on-field coach. Those responsibilities. I don't know if that would make a lot of sense. Tiger Thomas, couldn't tune in until late, right when you guys were talking player rankings. I was just wondering, where does Refrigerator Perry rank all time? Yeah, with the recruiting rankings, they only go back so far. So
yeah, they don't go back that far. So
yeah.
He would probably be up towards the top of the list.
Potentially, yeah, but and it was recruiting rankings, way back in when he was playing, they were it was a lot more regional, like you would. And it just wasn't. It was like you would see it in in your local newspaper, but recruiting there was not like a national. There wasn't typically like a national ranking. You just you found guys, and some guy that you would still hear about guys from other places, and there would be like a national. You'd be aware of play, but there wasn't like a centralized. There wasn't like the recruiting industry wasn't what it was. That it just was it was a lot different. So it would be hard to kind of quantify what his rating was out of high school. But he was, he got recruited by basically every major program, especially in the Southeast. So I would assume he would have been a 5-star, but that's not. I don't know if it would be obvious because just because of how things were back then. Wet Sox asked, what are the vibes on Josh Sapp? I think he's going to be a valuable spot tight end piece for you. I don't think he offers as much as Olsen Pat Henry does or what Christian Bentancur can be. He's a good athlete, and he's gotten opportunities, he's made some plays. So I think you're in a good spot if he needs to come and play some snaps for you. He's been in the program for a good bit. So I think they like him, but I think they like the guys. I think he's very solidly tight end 3 though.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, desperate men on the Richardson hire. Yeah, I've heard the same thing about Richardson over the last couple of years, but after the flag, that's the thing. The internal promotion thing would definitely. I think my thing is you got to find I think because of how the internal promotions went last time, I think people have swayed, maybe too far in the other direction where like they never want him to hire somebody internally again, when sometimes that is the best move.
Yeah.
But the problem with Dabo was he was doing it way too much, and he did it at the wrong he for the wrong people,
Yeah, I think
wrong time.
he got to a point where there was just too many inexperienced people in the room.
Yeah.
And there was no veteran coaches, or experience to lean on. So
you are in a much better spot now if Garrett Riley were to leave to
yeah,
where
if you brought on, you did internally promote a guy like Kyle Richardson, look at his offensive line coach, right? Look at some of the
support staff
analysts
that you
the
had,
support staff that you brought in, like Lonnie from North Carolina, who's helping out with the wide receivers, right? So like you have a lot more experience in the room. But yeah, he only does have high school experience when it comes to play calling. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That wouldn't be the sexiest hire, but I'm not even sure
certainly,
it would be the right hire.
Come with criticism if Dabo did decide to go that way. But I mean, we'll see. I'm sure Dabo has a plan, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully, it's no time soon.
Yeah. I'm looking at this season right now, and whatever comes after that, we'll talk about it when
we all in on 2025 right now.
And
then we'll reevaluate this time next year.
Intelligence Savage asking about Cade Klubnik on the cover, potentially being on the cover. I mean, I think he should be. I saw some like concept like covers, but it had like multiple players on it. But I think Cade would be a good pick. I think he's the best returning quarterback in college football.
Yeah, I certainly think he's the best returning quarterback in college football.
So
wouldn't surprise me if they put Manning on there though.
Yeah, his name carries more weight.
Even go a receiver route and go Jeremiah Smith.
I wouldn't be mad at that. Yeah.
So they could go multiple ways, but Cade's certainly deserving of it. But there's other guys that could that are probably deserving of that too.
Let's see.
Hopefully, it's not like the Madden curse, though. Let's.
Yeah. We haven't seen that. Hopefully, I hope that doesn't become a thing.
If that's the case, I hope he's not on the cover of College Football 26.
Yeah, facts. Let's see, Dylan. Yeah, he says Deshaun Watson got robbed when Lamar won it. Yeah, I think my biggest thing was that they basically voted him the Heisman after like 6 weeks. Like it was over.
Everybody stopped watching.
Yeah, and then
I think what bothers me the most about the Heisman is like how many votes are out there, and like you look at some of the names that are voters.
Yeah,
and you're like, does this person even watch college football?
They like cover they cover like NFL for their local.
You don't
NFL.
even know college football.
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time you actually watched an entire college football game? That's what bothers me about a lot, like not just the Heisman, but like a lot of awards in sports. It's like I feel like
people is the same way.
They get too many voters.
Yeah,
and a lot of the voters don't watch college football, so they're just listening to whatever this talking head or that talking head says about the Heisman, and they're just like, oh yeah, well, I guess this dude deserves it. Like it's just one of those awards that over the years have just been watered down. Not that it's not a big deal. Like a Heisman is obviously a big deal, but I do think it has been watered down over the years, and they probably need to clean up that Heisman voting list a little bit. You don't need that many voters.
Let's see. We got Jermaine Woods is here with a Go Tigers. Shout out to Mr. Woods, Peter Woods' dad. Good to see you in a minute since he's popped in. So
appreciate you watching the show.
Yep. Always a pleasure. Taco Gaming says, if Cade can replicate what he did this year or even improve on it, then he should win it. I mean, I can't disagree. I mean, there's going to be some competition. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, what Cade put, I think if Cade couples the numbers with the wins, like you beat LSU, I think that's going to give him a leg up. You go relatively unscathed through conference schedule and you beat your rival at the end of the year. Like you just got to win the big games. I think that's going to be the separation from Cade, just being a highly regarded quarterback and being a Heisman finalist or potential Heisman winner. You got to win those games. And, that's going to fall, he's going to need help from his teammates too. The defense just has to be better than it was last year. A lot better. But obviously the steps have been taken to improve that. You have the players. It's never been a player issue. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think regular season, if you can go, those numbers that he put up last year, coupled with, 11-1, 10-2 type of regular season, ACC championship, you got a shot, right? But, that all depends on a lot of factors, right? You got Jeremiah Smith out there. You got Arch Banning out there. He's already got, let's be honest, somewhat of a leg up because his last name's Manning. Not saying he's not a good quarterback, but if he turns out to be a good quarterback, that Manning name may, give him a little extra boost in the voting, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see.
All right. Let's do a few more and get on out of here. Intelligent Savage asked a good question. He says, Tate Reynolds and Chris Denson, both dual threat quarterbacks. Which do you see taking over? Which do you see overtaking Chris Vizina, if either? I don't expect either one of them. Yeah. It's hard for me to see either one of them coming in ready. Chris Denson obviously will have a year up on Tate, but I think Chris has he's got a long ways to go. Just based off of what's been. He's physically he looks like he's going to be a really good player down the line. But
yeah, I think they're both guys that are going to need development. When they come to Clemson, so taking over a guy that's been in the program as long as Chris Vizina, unless he's just terrible, that's gonna be a steep hill to climb.
Yeah.
Because
Chris,
it's just obvious that those guys are better. They're gonna go with Chris Vizina.
And Viz is a dual threat guy himself. So if I don't think there's anything that either one of those quarterbacks could offer you, soon enough to where we would, that would be really a conversation. I think, maybe you give them an opportunity, but I really think the fan base has just kind of been out on Chris because he's just been sitting behind Cade Klubnik, but we haven't seen him play meaningful snaps. So I don't. There seems to, when the conversation about Chris Vizina rolls around, it's always like, okay, there always seems to be this unspoken or spoken kind of like, okay, yeah, he's the perceived next guy, but how about that true freshman,
yeah.
And it's like, hold on now, Chris Vizina was a top. He was a top 60 quarterback coming, top 60 player coming out of high school, and he had a lot of developing to do when he got to campus, but he's been in the same system. He will have been in the same system now for 3 years, and then I think that's valuable, and I think that's going to serve him well when it's his turn. So I'm of the belief that Chris Vizina will be your starter. next season, and I don't think there'll be much question about that during the
No, I definitely think he'll be the starter.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see him. Well, if I go to the spring game, I'm excited to see him play in the spring game.
Yeah, I think he has an opportunity. I mean, in this past scrimmage, Chris Vizina outplayed Cade from what I was.
Yeah, I mean, Dabo called Cade out a little bit in the press conference, saying that he had a lack of focus and he made a lot of mistakes that he shouldn't have, and he needs to do better. So, but I mean, I got no worries about Cade Klubnik. He'll be fine. A bad scrimmage is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But no, to answer your question, there is no live streams of the spring game at all.
No, unfortunately.
If you want to see the spring game, you gotta travel down to Tiger Town and be in Death Valley on April 5th at 1 p.m. There will be it won't be televised in any way, whether that's ACC Network or Clemson Plus or anything.
All right. Yeah, Taco Game. It says, what if Dabo is grooming Garrett to take over once he retires? I've heard that before.
Dabo's a little young for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that, and Dabo hasn't shown any. And John says it. Yeah, Dabo hasn't shown any signs that he's ready to retire. Like that. Dabo retiring is not on my brain right now. I don't think that.
I don't think he's close to retiring.
Yeah. Despite what the opposing fans want to say, and
right.
I haven't, and everything he's done so far has shown the opposite. That he's nowhere close, and he wants to keep this thing rolling. Isaac says, for the next ranking, I should do like a top 5 or top 10 Clemson classic games of all time. That'll be fun.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
that'd be a fun list to make.
I have to write these down. Top 10 lowest recruits or underrated recruits. Yeah. And then top 10 or top 5, or whichever one we want to do. Classic games of all time.
Underrated recruits.
John with a funny thought. He says, "Let Cade win it." Then hear Cade say, "Keep it." Just a thought.
That'd be funny, but he would never.
No, to take the Heisman, man. If he wins it, take it. Lord, that's the last thing. Like, because then they would. There is nothing.
They would never give a Clemson player another Heisman again. Yeah. That would be it.
Well,
would be blacklisted.
It's just it would be some. They would that team in Columbia, South Carolina. That's the last thing they have over us. That's literally the only thing football wise they have over us. Like. Yeah. That would be their one save. Like that's the one thing that they can kind of poke. I mean, it doesn't really hit very hard because I would certainly take the 3 national titles over a Heisman winner from 1980. But like, still, that's the one thing in their history they have, and it shows you kind of how bogus that award is and how it's just really about you just got to get lucky.
Yeah,
because random schools have Heismans. Syracuse isn't random. I shouldn't say that. They have some history, but just like when you think of the programs that the Heisman, they haven't always come from the traditional, blue bloods. I'm not saying Clemson is that, but they certainly had great teams over their history, and to not have a single one, is
I mean they weren't like the Clemson's obviously not a blue blood, but like. They weren't just like a terrible football program for their entire existence. Clemson had a lot of success in football over the course of its history, not just in the Dabo Swinney era. So, It is crazy that we've never had one, especially when you think about the list of players that have come through Clemson.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Dylan Spell says, if the guys on the defense were to ask you for a name, what would y'all give them? We've already had the Power Rangers, so can't use that one. We've also already we've also used the Avengers.
The Avengers, yeah. So the Power Rangers are out. The Avengers are out.
We gotta go. I guess you gotta go Justice League. I don't know.
Yeah, the Justice League, or think of another.
The X-Men.
The X-Men, yeah.
That could be fun.
Cool. That could be cool. Yeah.
That's a good one. We'll have to think on that. But I think Justice League and X-Men. I mean, obviously, those are the the two iconic superhero teams that we've left out that we haven't used yet. So, but there's more. But you'd have to be those are the ones everybody knows.
Yeah.
Tiger Tom says, do you guys think Vizina is a transfer risk if Cade shines? I mean, no. Cade is gone after this year, regardless.
Yeah, no matter what Cade does, he's out of eligibility. So
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't mean nothing to me. But yeah, like, yeah,
Vizina's not going anywhere. If he was going to leave, he would have left in the last transfer cycle. That was the risk of Vizina transferring. As soon as he decided that he was okay with Cade coming back and sitting another year, I don't. It would shock me if he went anywhere at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to think. I mean,
it'd be confusing if he left now, because why didn't you leave before when you already knew Cade was coming back? So
yeah, I mean, and yeah, you have a clear path. You have a clear path to starting after next year.
It's his job to lose,
and you'll have two, and he'll still have two. He has 2 years of eligibility after this year to start.
Yeah.
So it just
he could be a 2-year starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any risk that Vizina's leaving at all.
Yeah. I guess you never know. Maybe something happens, but
yeah, I mean, I guess anything could happen. But
everything. He's always been very he just loves being with Clemson.
Yeah, I don't think a guy like that waits this long for his turn and then just ups and leaves right as he gets his opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think that makes sense.
What's the chat talking about? Grooming dogs. What are we?
I don't know. Are we? Yeah. This, it's always when we hit that 2-hour mark. I think we just kind of evolve.
Yeah,
we're just I think we're going to here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate all of you guys that commented. This is always my favorite part of the show, and you guys always give us. Love the top. Yeah, I love doing these lists. Like we did the recruits, and we didn't do a top 10 or what did we do? Top 5 players at each position. We didn't do one this week, but so we'll have to bring that back too.
Yeah, we'll have to pick another position that we'll do next week.
We've done what, defensive line and receivers, right?
Yeah, we've done defensive line and receivers. Did we do quarterback?
No.
We did defensive line. We did receivers.
Well,
we did running back.
We did do running back. I don't think we've done quarterback. Have we?
I don't think we've done quarterback. So defensive
See, that's
line.
Something. Isaac says we did do quarterback. Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We did. I remember now.
Okay.
Because we talked about Deshaun or Trevor Lawrence being number 1.
Yeah. I know. I know we did running back because we were.
Yeah, I know we did running back. Yeah. Did quarterback. Did defensive line. receiver. So I guess we could do we got linebacker.
Yeah, we could do linebacker. That'd be fun. Yeah. We could separate corner and safety.
Yeah, we could separate corner and safety. For sure.
And tight end. So Isaac's got a good one. Clemson's Mount Rushmore. That's tough. Yeah.
That's That's a good idea.
We'll have to save all these the live chat replay. I'll have to go back or I can just screenshot it so that way I have it.
Yeah. Mount Rushmore, linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties.
All right. So we'll go through those week by week too.
Yeah, we'll do like one of those per week.
It's good content for the off season.
Yes, it is. I love it's fun to reminisce.
Yeah, definitely fun
for the ones that I've seen. Like if you want me to start talking about Levon Kirkland, I can't really help you there. I wasn't old enough to watch him play, but great guy though. Good, really good podcast host. He does a good. He
did great until Dabo came and stole him away.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Dabo said, "Hey, you gotta come work for me now.
Come work for me now.
Stop doing that podcast stuff."
Yeah. All right,
guys. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Still got 34 people in the live chat. We are currently at 37 likes, so I appreciate each and every one of you hitting that like button while you're in here. If you're not subscribed to the show or the channel, I should say, please hit that subscribe button. Me and Jordan put out content each and every week, including this live show every Wednesday, 8 p.m. called the All In Show. Share the content, share the channel with all of your college football friends and family. Anybody that enjoys college football content, don't have to necessarily be a Clemson fan. Share it with them. Follow us on our socials, our Instagram, our Twitter, Voice of College Football. Give us a follow on all of those. Don't forget that we have all of our long-form content streaming on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. Go check us out. Search Clemson Live. Appreciate all you guys hanging out to the end with us tonight. It's always fun to chop it up with you guys in the comments section. But until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.